This is an incredible movement to unlock your hips. I'm going to break it down in a coaching video here, slow it down a little bit so you can start to see this pattern. Really keeps you in your glutes, especially for forward locomotion. And sometimes with running and walking and hiking, we got to start on the ground so we can unlock those hips. And then as we start to get these patterns on the ground, we can start to get them in the standing positions as well. So I'm going to break this down for you. First things first, all right? I've loaded this. I call this movement a pigeon tracer, all right? And some people call it a half crawl out because it mimics a baby crawl, all right? So I call it the pigeon tracer because I start in this pigeon position right here. All right. And if you don't know the pigeon position that we teach in primal movement, I've got videos for that. But here I've loaded that hip socket. All right. And I'm also starting to do some of these global laws of durability. I've loaded one column. So I've loaded this right thigh. All right. My knees and shins are on the ground. The thigh bone is back. And you can see this in this next slot right here. Right here, boom, right there. All right, so you can see the shins. You can see that thigh bone is back behind my rib cage. So my glute is on. My glutes are activated right here. All right, and what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to trace that back leg. Right, can you see that back leg? So right here, everything is pointed in the same direction. My knee, my chest, right? Even this back knee here, my head. Everything's pointing that one direction because I have loaded this side. All right, so I've loaded this side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to trace like a crawl, right? So that back leg starts to trace along. And as I do that, my spine starts to move to my midline, to my center. Right? My head starts to move to my center because if I was to pull that left knee all the way up and land it on the ground, then I would load that side. But I don't want to totally load that side because it's just a half crawl out or a pigeon tracer. All right? Can you see that right there? And I'll go back to that front view again so you can see it. Right? There I've loaded that hip, and as I start to go, I sink back into that glute even more. So I've loaded I say the hip. Some people think the front of the hip. I'm thinking the back of the hip, right? The glute. I've loaded that glute. And then as I start to trace to that midline, I've loaded it even more. I've not thrust the hip forward. I've really loaded that glute even more, right? And what happens naturally? My arm and my shoulder is loaded over that side, and it starts to trace over to that midline, right? But I haven't fully loaded over to that side yet. From the side view, right, you can see that spine involved. Boom, from that side view. And now from this back view, all right? There it is. There's that pigeon. Head's over foot. Chest is open. Everything is open on that side, right? We're loading energy on that side. And then I'm just going to start to trace that back leg, trace that spine and head, trace that elbow and shoulder over to that center, right? Because I would then, if I was to crawl, I would transfer all that weight over to that side. And some people say, Jerry, why not just crawl? Well, you can crawl, but sometimes you don't have space to crawl. All right. And it's been a long winter and I've been inside. But now that I'm out on the grass, I could probably do these crawling. You can see the pattern as well. But you can see I stay back into that hip socket the whole time. Right? Not collapsing. Pigeon tracer, a half crawl out. Here it is right here. Boom. Spine. See, the head is over that foot, or the head's over that column, right? Because my knee and shin. And then as I start to trace, look what happens. Boom, the back leg starts to trace. The thigh bone starts to trace. The spine, look at that spinal engine start to go. And I stay back into those hips for as long as I can. All right, that's a pigeon tracer. I hope this more detailed look at the movement helps, right? Really keeping that thigh bone back. Again, baby crawls are super powerful movement. If you do baby crawls, think about this same thing of staying in that hip socket, right? And coordinating the hip, the spine, the shoulders, and the head all together. Much love and durability.